Hello, hello. Welcome to your Lyric Theater and Cultural Arts Center. My name is Christian Adair. I'm the executive director here, and we appreciate you coming to this beautiful facility of all of ours to see some amazing art. And we are excited that you took your afternoon out to show an appreciation to a very historic monument that's going to be placed in our city. So on behalf of the Lyric Theater and Cultural Arts Center and the board, we appreciate the team that brought this to fruition. We appreciate the artists that have traveled this far and have took their time out to create some amazing, heartfelt artwork. And of course, LexArts leading this program. And so I'm going to hand it over and get out of the way, but be sure to come back. The Lyric Theater has a lot going on for you, and if you need a platform to show your inspiration and to do something, this is the place for you to come to.
Thank you, Christian. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. On behalf of the Lexington's Freedom Train Committee, we want to welcome you, and we want to encourage you to stay involved with this project. It's very dear to our hearts, and it should be to the community, and particularly the East End. So again, welcome to the Lexington Freedom Train Artist Finalist presentations. We're thrilled you could join us, but before we get started, I want to offer a word of gratitude, please. Thank you first and foremost to all the supremely talented artist finalists. Aichu Hopen, Norman Lee and David Wilson, Stephen White, and Basil Watson, and I just told Basil that I'm bound and determined to call him Basil Hayden. I want to recognize the Lexington's Freedom Train Committee as well. Larry Kiesel is our chair. Gary Bibbs, Yvonne Giles, Bill Harris, Vanessa Holden, Brian Jacobs, Diana Martin, Kaimon Murrah, Mari Sparrow, myself, Jeanette Tesmer, Frank X. Walker, Mark Watkins, and Nathan Zamaron. I also want to quickly thank Christian, of course, and the team here at the Lyric and their efforts in providing a terrific space for these presentations. And if you did, yes, sir. And if you did have a soda out there, that's thanks to G&J Pepsi. So thank you so much to Wally Gross. One quick announcement outside of the presentations tonight. You should have received, and if you didn't, please take a look when you get out, a card that looks kind of like this. I'm asking you to participate in a 10-minute survey. As you might know, LexArts, with and on behalf of the City of Lexington, is working with Sound Diplomacy to develop an arts and culture master design strategy. The arts and culture sector in Lexington makes significant contributions to the social and economic fabric of the city by providing a vehicle for cross-cultural expression, creating jobs, encouraging tourism, and strengthening the city's brand. However, supporting and developing the arts and culture economy requires a comprehensive understanding of its value to the city of Lexington. As Lexington looks to better leverage its arts and culture economy, it's necessary to assess the current state of affairs and ensure that a well-designed strategy is in place to fully optimize the critical power of art and culture as a social asset and an economic engine. So please take 5 or 10 minutes to complete the survey. The survey is open just until Friday. And we'll send you more information on the master design strategy later. But there's a lot more work to be done, and we will unveil a strategy in the fall. And we're excited about that. So back to the main event. I'm going to tell you quickly, if I can, a little bit of the background of this project. Simply put, Lexington's Freedom Train Project is a collaborative effort among members of the Lexington community to create a monument honoring an enslaved Lexington couple from the 1840s and to educate the community about their significant contributions to the Underground Railroad and to abolition. Across the country, communities are beginning to recognize and memorialize the cruel history of slavery and racism. Today, many choose to selectively forget or hide the past. We believe there can be no healing, no amends, unless we confront this ugly past head on. This project is an effort to tell the story of the Underground Railroad and to honor all former Lexington enslaved peoples. If you'll allow me the mission of the project, this monument is an effort to memorialize our cruel history of slavery and to help us heal from it, to honor Lewis and Harriet Hayden, two of Lexington's enslaved who became famed abolitionists, to remember the stories of other enslaved persons in Lexington, and to commemorate their paths to freedom via Kentucky's Underground Railroad. There's quite a history here, and I think as you see through these presentations tonight, that there's a lot of thought that's been in place from the artist's perspective, but there's so much history that we continue to uncover. And in just a few moments, Lexington's favorite historian, Dr. Yvonne Giles, will come up and tell us a little bit about that. But back to the project. For those who may not be aware, Lewis and Harriet Hayden were an enslaved couple who lived in Lexington, of course, and escaped via the Underground Railroad to Canada, returned to Massachusetts to join an abolitionist movement, and operated a station on the Underground Railroad in Boston to provide shelter for fleeing fugitives. Lewis Hayden was instrumental in forming the 1st Massachusetts Black Regiment in the Civil War, and was later elected as the first Black statesman in the Massachusetts legislature. These two individuals, Lewis and Harriet, demonstrated courage and passion and made a profound impact in the pursuit of freedom, not just for themselves, but for thousands of enslaved people in the United States. In addition to memorializing the Haydens, this monument will also recognize the story of all enslaved Lexingtonians, each of whom have their own unique story, and many of which are yet to be told. Partnership on this project has been extremely critical. Lexington's Freedom Train is a LexArts project in collaboration with a large and diverse group of individuals that includes a former Kentucky Poet Laureate, community historians, Lexington City Council members, faculty from the University of Kentucky Departments of Art, History, and English, educators and students from Bluegrass Community and Technical College, local business and civic leaders, Martin Luther King Neighborhood Association and other neighborhood associations, Living Arts and Science Center, and so many more. We're extremely proud and honored that this project has earned the endorsement of Lexington Mayor Linda Gordon, Lexington City Council members Tana Fogel, Shayla Lynch, and James Brown. We also enjoy the endorsement of the University of Kentucky College of Arts and Sciences, African American Africana Studies, Lexington Traditional Magnet School, MLK Neighborhood Association, BCTC, the Lexington Public Arts Commission, the Living Arts and Sciences Center, Carnegie Center for Literacy and Learning, and more. This monument will be located on the northeast corner of 4th and North Limestone Streets in front of the Lexington Traditional Magnet School. This location was selected by East End activist Sherry Maddock in her original idea to shed light on the East End and honor Lexington's enslaved, the Underground Railroad, and the Haydens. And Sherry, if you didn't know her, she was a terrific activist, particularly in the East End, lived in the East End, beautified the East End. She and her husband, who happened to be Australian, made the decision just shortly after this project took off to move back to Australia. But I will tell you that Sherry has invested financially. She continues to be invested on all levels. And so we're grateful to Sherry for her initial inspiration for this project. We've subsequently discovered that Lewis Hayden, while enslaved, lived in a house directly across the street from the school. This house still stands and is the Adam Rankin House. Now, there are 2 Adam Rankin houses in Lexington. One is the oldest in Lexington, which is up on North Mill. And Adam left that home and went to this home on North Limestone Street. And again, directly across the street from the school, which makes this location even more relevant. The committee's intent is for the unveiling of the monument to coincide with the upcoming 250th birthday of the founding of Lexington in 2025, and the 250th anniversary of the United States of America in 2026. Of course, none of this would happen without major financial support. Currently, we have 4 major gifts and many, many smaller but no less significant gifts. We're grateful, and this is a great announcement, we're grateful for a $100,000 anonymous donation from a member of this community. We are glad to have the support of community venture corporations at $50,000. The Knight Donor Advised Fund at Bluegrass Community Foundation has offered a $50,000 match. And Ruth Hunt Candy has offered a $10,000 corporate match. So you can see we still have work ahead of us, but when you get to this point, you're really excited because the project has legs. We also have grants pending from the National Endowment for the Arts, Lexington's Public Arts Commission, Toyota, and many more. So how can you get involved? Please pass the word. Word of mouth is the most important in a public art, in that public art land. Education about Lewis and Harriet Hayden's life, the Underground Railroad, and the role Lexington played during these moments in our history are little known, but provide many inspiring stories. Of course, you can contribute financially to the project by check. You can make those out to Lexington Freedom Train, and we have donor envelopes out back. You can also mail those to LexArts at 161 North Mill. And you make, of course, credit card gifts online at Lexington Freedom Train, no, I'm sorry, back up, lexfreedomtrain.org, that's lexfreedomtrain.org, or by completing the information on the donor envelopes in the community room. And now, if you'll allow me, please welcome to the stage Dr. Yvonne Giles, Lexington's favorite historian, who will give much needed context to the story of Lewis and Harriet Hayden.
Do I need to pick up one of the other mics? Can you hear me? Good. I really do appreciate you all being here tonight. We have worked so very diligently since 2016. Larry Kiesel was one of the first members of the community that Sherry Maddock had interested in this project. He has kept that candle burning. He has recruited others to bring to the table all of the talent and all of the interest and all of the drive that is being evidenced tonight. And why? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Stand up, Larry. And why out of all the enslaved people in Lexington was Lewis and Harriet Hayden chosen? There were others who escaped. We know their stories. But why this couple? And the more we have learned about him, it's a fit. Some of you may not know, but I'm telling you now. March the 9th, Lewis Hayden was one of 10 abolitionists whose image is on the latest commemorative United States postal stamp. Have you been in the post office lately? Have you seen the announcement? March the 9th. He is one of 6 men and 4 women. March the 19th, Harriet, his wife, has an exhibit that is opening, Framing Freedom. She had 2 photo albums in her possession at her death, and those have been curated and now being presented as an exhibit. Beautiful, beautiful photos, and they were images of everyone she and Lewis had associated with during the abolitionist movement. How many others are we aware of? Lexingtonians, they were born here. They spent most of their young adult life here in Lexington, enslaved by various owners. When I've read the accounts of their period of enslavement, Harriet was enslaved by Patterson Bain, and their youngest, Patterson Bain's youngest son, provided us with a description of Harriet. She had grown up in his family, was the nursemaid, the cook, the housekeeper, the trusted servant. They were surprised when she left. He gave the account that she had married Lewis 2 years before their escape. And his opinion of Lewis, he was a well-liked, respected young man, an enslaved man, an enslaved woman who were highly thought of. Once they leave here, that admiration continued. People who came into their sphere knew that this was an unusual couple. They locked step. They made the decision to leave together. Lewis says that he would not leave without his wife. They made the decision to come back into the United States, even though they were fugitives. And they made the decision to leave Detroit, to go to Boston, and become very, very active in the abolitionist movement, to the point that Lewis was arrested for helping a fugitive slave escape. Those stories are out there, they're verified. We are now learning that there are resources that have been tucked away in archive files that are coming to light. So we're beginning to see a broader picture of this man and woman. And the surprising thing to me was that Lewis was also a suffragette. He supported women's rights. Yay. So he was a man. Mr. Walker, Frank X, has written a poem, Because I Am a Man. He was a man. And he had a woman beside him that was just as powerful and trustworthy as he. One of the things that has surprised me about Lewis Hayden, on October the 1st, 1844, his owner said that he knew Lewis had escaped, but he didn't know where he was. He hadn't heard from him. Lewis responded to him on October the 27th. He hired a secretary to send a letter back to Thomas Grant and Louis Baxter, his owners, and said, "By now, you have discovered my absence, and I'm going to tell you why and where." And he proceeded to do that. He also talked to Harriet Beecher Stowe and gave her his life story, written in a key to Uncle Tom's Cabin. It's all there. It's documented. We're not making it up. He also wrote a letter back to Sidney Howard Gay, who was a newspaper editor, National Anti-Slavery Standard. Henry Clay was campaigning, and he made the comment that he was a friend to the slave. Lewis Hayden, oh no. Lewis Hayden says in 1847, still a fugitive slave, that I hope you're never a friend of Henry Clay and fall into his hands as a slave. And this is why. He gives details. He talks about his first wife and child having been bought by Clay and then sold by Clay. He gave details about where his wife had been enslaved on Thomas Clay's farm, Henry Clay's son, with the Mentill family across the street, the French couple, and then back to Henry Clay, where she gave birth, lost her child. Henry Clay sold her 3 weeks later. And Hayden says, he asked politely, "Why did you do this?" "I bought them and I sold them," was the response. How could this man, enslaved, that most people want to believe enslaved people are dumb, stupid, and ignorant. This does not speak of a person who is not capable of reasoning, not capable of passion, not capable of love. And most enslaved people had those traits. This is why I think Lewis and Harriet Hayden's story is going to resonate and spread throughout our city, our state, and the nation, because it gives us a more balanced picture of individuals who were having to deal with adverse conditions, cruel, inhuman treatment, but yet, through love, through compassion, through humanity, they saw fit and willing and wanting to help others. The Haydens helped 100 fugitive slaves before the Civil War. That's a lot of people through your house. And there are records of those enslaved families. The Vigilance Committee had a secretary, Mr. Jackson. He kept detailed records. A lot of this is online. You just have to go look. And as we continue to share his story, you'll see more of that on our website. And if you will go to the website, Ms. Tesmer has been our web manager. She's done a fabulous job posting information, so please look at it frequently and learn. There's several videos on there, but she's also provided some of the history. Louis and Harriet Hayden's time has come, and we're excited about the artists who have brought their designs to us, and I hope you take the time to understand, and you'll get to hear them speak. And I've taken up way more of my time. I tell everybody I give you the encyclopedia even when you don't want it. But I appreciate your attention, and anytime you have questions, reach out to us through our email account, telephone calls, anything. Just let us know what you want to see and hear. This is a process, so we want your input. Thank you.
Mrs. Giles, your scholarly work and your guidance on this committee is invaluable. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you so much. Quickly, I want to recognize a couple of people in the audience. I think I see council members Denise Gray and James Brown in the audience. Anybody we're missing? Good. Heather Lyons is here. She's our Director of Arts and Cultural Affairs. I want to recognize Amy Sweetall, our President and CEO of LexArts, and the board, including Camden Skidmore. He's in the audience. He's our board chair this year. So without further ado, I want to turn this over to my colleague, Nathan Zamaron. If you know Nathan, or if you know public art, he's at the table. He's the Vice President of Community Arts at LexArts, and he'll be introducing each of the finalists and facilitating tonight's discussion.
Thank you, Maury. And thank you all for being here. So excited about this project. It's been a long time coming and a lot of people involved. I just want to say briefly, we put out LexArts was approached by the committee to facilitate this artist selection process. We did put out a national call for art through callforentry.org. We had 97 artists from across the country apply. That was through qualifications. We were able to see their past works. And the committee selected down to these 4 artists that we're going to see tonight. So they each represent the highest level of art in their fields. And so we were very fortunate to have artists of this caliber create site-specific proposals for this project. So without further ado, I'm going to invite up Basil Watson, and I'll read his bio. The other artists, if you don't mind to step out into the lobby, will be calling upon you shortly. And the way this is going to work, we're going to have right at 30 minutes per artist, including their bio reading. So they'll each have about 10 to 15 minutes to present their proposal, and then we'll take question and answer for about another 10 minutes. Okay. Basil Watson has been sculpting, drawing, and painting for over 45 years, with the human figure being his primary area of focus. He has completed over 36 public sculptures and monuments since his first commission in 1982. In 2016, he was awarded the Order of Distinction by the government of Jamaica in recognition of his many achievements in the fine arts. While several of his major commissions can be found in Jamaica, many of his monumental works have also been commissioned in Atlanta, other cities in the USA, and around the world. In 2021, he completed a twice life-size 12-foot sculpture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Hope Moving Forward, for the city of Atlanta, installed on MLK Jr. Drive Northwest near the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. In 2021, Basil was commissioned by the government of the United Kingdom to create the National Windrush Monument. It was unveiled in Waterloo Station, London on June 22, 2022 by the HRH, the Prince of Wales. His most recent unveiling was the monument to Rosa Parks, commissioned by the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama, for their Legacy Museums Plaza. In 2024, Basil is looking forward to the unveiling of several monuments to add to his already impressive collections. These include the desegregation at the University of South Carolina, commemorating the 60th anniversary of the post-Reconstruction desegregation of the university, and a 12-foot monument, John Lewis, commissioned by the city of Decatur. And with that, Basil Watson.
I think I'm going to give up sculpture and pick up public speaking. But I want to thank the citizens of Lexington for having the initiative to launch a project like this. And it's an honor to be here to represent my proposal for the Haydens and telling the stories that need to be told. A little bit about myself. I am born in Jamaica, lived the first 44 years of my life in Jamaica, been in the States 22 years, thereabout, and born into a family of artists. I've been involved in the arts all my life. My father was a painter. My siblings are both artists. And I am getting opportunities to tell stories that are so important. And I am so proud to be here tonight to continue that journey. So this is Martin Luther King, one of the pieces I did commissioned by the city of Atlanta. See if I get move this forward. I think there goes my career as a public speaker.
Okay, you're just gonna hit that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just that button.
I had it turned around.
Okay.
This is the Windrush Monument, commissioned by the British government that I did in 22. And most recent piece, this is Rosa Parks, commissioned by the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. Another city, another institution that is doing a marvelous job in telling the stories of slavery, the initiation of slavery right through to modern day, mass incarceration and civil rights and so on. But to get to the Lewis and Harriet Hayden Monument, abolitionists and activists on the Underground Railroad. Okay. Yeah. Good. Lewis and Harriet were both born into slavery. Harriet was Lewis's second wife, as we were told, and his first wife, along with their child, was sold somewhere in the South, never be seen or heard again. When Lewis married Harriet, he adopted her son. And as always, he wanted to run to freedom, never wanting to experience a separation again. However, he was encouraged to wait until the boy was old enough to handle the stress and freedom, the stress of the journey to freedom. And after finally achieving freedom, the Haydens spent the rest of their lives aiding and abetting others to gain and maintain their freedom. They operated a station on the Underground Railroad and continued doing political advocacy to abolish slavery. They literally fought for freedom all their lives, and this was the core of their being. The concept is the celebration of freedom. The theme of freedom from slavery is represented and symbolic mainly through the raising of their clasped hands. Their fingers are intertwined in unison, togetherness and strength, and are raised above their heads in triumph and celebration. Lewis's gesture with his right hand is to reject and push back on the vestiges of his past life of being subjected to slavery as he moves forward as a free man. Harriet, left hand on her breast, expresses the heartfelt emotion of securing their freedom, the joy and the pain that comes with the struggle and ultimate success. Their clothing is of the fashion of the day, reflecting their status as people of learning, sophistication, and achievement. They stand on circles that interlock, reflecting the intersection of their lives that encompasses different but important aspects in the fight against slavery. I hope I'm not going too far. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the dynamics of the design. The scale will be approximately 1 1/3 life size, which is 7.75, 7 3/4 to 8.5 feet. And this is to the top of the man's head, and the woman would be a little bit shorter. Harriet would be a little bit shorter. This is standard heroic size, giving prominence, importance, and power to the monument. The medium for the sculpture will be bronze, the standard for outdoor sculpture, and this will sit on a granite base. The interlocking circles on which they stand would be approximately 30 inches in diameter, and they will sit on a rectangle or, I think finally chosen, an oval granite base that will be approximately 40 inches by 66 inches and about 24 inches high. The total height of the monument will be approximately 10 feet. The granite will be gray with a steel floated finish, and the orientation of the monument, at the corner of Limestone and 4th, will be approximately 45 degrees angled facing northeast. This gives good viewing from 4th and points in the general direction of the Freedom Trail of Limestone. The scope of work to develop the monument. So from the 14-inch model that you see outside, that will be developed on a second stage, which will be bigger and more attention will be paid to the proportions, and that will be accurately studied. So as the monument increases in size, the proportions and movement remain harmonious. The second maquette will be digitally scanned, sent to a manufacturer who will enlarge the monument to the scale that we are looking for, and it will be enlarged in styrofoam. And then clay will be added to the styrofoam to model the details and give the exact finish. Then mold makers will make a rubber mold of the clay. Through the lost wax process, the monument will be then cast in bronze, patinaed, and polished. The granite base will be designed, fabricated, and installed. To install the granite pedestal, an engineering drawing will be done for the foundation. The foundation dug, constructed to engineer specs. I think I am way ahead of reading, okay. We are reading. Scope of work, yes. Yes, the granite will be affixed to the foundation and the monument affixed to the granite. So this shows that there is a lot of processes as we go forward, quite involving. The timetable for the development of the maquette will be approximately 2 months. The scan and production of a large-scale model in styrofoam, approximately 1 month. The application of clay and sculpting of the monument, approximately 6 months. Mold and cast in bronze, while the granite base is being done concurrently, will take approximately 5 months. So we project that the full scope of the monument will be about 14 to 16 months. And this should be well in time with the timetable set out, 24, 25. Now, in conclusion, I just want to say that this Freedom Train project fits perfectly into the genre of projects that I've done on many occasions. I bring my experience and my ability to connect and empathize with the theme and concept and express this through the action and energy of the human figure. I am confident that I can successfully accomplish this project let me see. Yeah. I am confident I can successfully accomplish this project and achieve the mission of expressing the character and contributions of the Haydens, who have been our unsung heroes to date. But as Dr. Giles said, this is rapidly changing. So I want to thank you and the citizens again of Lexington for inviting me to submit and to bring my proposal to the fore. And this is supposed to be a video showing the monument as it moves. Does it move? No. So with that, I want to invite questions. I hope I didn't miss anything. My assistant, my daughter, Tanya, here will let me know what I've missed. But we are open for questions. Yes? Well, everything is going to need maintenance, but the bronze is relatively maintenance-free, probably washed and polished once or twice a year, depending on climate conditions. But the bronze is standard for outdoors, very hardy, and will stand for centuries. Yes? Yes. Uh-huh. The total height, inclusive of the base, would be approximately 10 feet. So 10 feet would bring it below the power cords that are running above. And because the space has its limitation with the tree, the traffic, and the road, it's a relatively small outdoor space, but 8 feet with the base 10 feet will give it the prominence and power that it would deserve. So as it stands now, there is a plaque out there talking about the schools and the area. And something of that nature can and probably should be incorporated, talking about the design. And the granite base gives, within that 2 foot space or height, gives room for the name of the monument and any other text, well, not any other text, but limited text on the base. So I think there are 2 opportunities for text on the granite pedestal and possibly the erection of another standing plaque to talk about it.
And I should add for context very quickly, when you talk about, because I understand your question now, there is a significant amount of money dedicated to this project going directly to education. So we intend for this monument to be a living monument, for it to change, not depending on the seasons necessarily, but just to continue to educate folks about this story. So there is a good amount, actually 20% of the entire budget, is set aside for education. And the LTMS president, Brian Jacobs, We've met with him. We've met with so many people in Fayette County Public Schools that are so critically excited about this project. They intend to, as a matter of fact, introduce this story into all fifth grade civics classes. And, you know, the LTMS kids are so excited to have a piece of history living on their campus. So there will be significant educational pieces to the project.
Yeah, Brother Washington, would you go back and kind of explain to the audience the digital likeness process that's going to take place?
Okay. Let's go back to. Okay. So this maquette is 14 inches, and it fleshes out the design and the key components of the design that we want to talk about it on the larger scale. Because it's of the scale, if there's a miscalculation on this scale at, let's say, 1/4 of an inch, when it's blown up, that 1/4 of an inch becomes maybe 2, 3 inches. So it's important that the next step would be studying the figures, the anatomy, the movement, structure of the figures, the relationship of the figures, very carefully before we move to the large scale, blowing it up another maybe four times. And then once this is blown up, the styrofoam is shaved back maybe 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Clay is then applied to the styrofoam. So we feel confident that the styrofoam is accurate in proportion, in movement, and in the overall design. The clay now models the details, the clothing, the eyes, the ears, the fingers, all those details are modeled at that stage with the clay. And in clay, at that scale, we get the final monument that will be then cast.
But you do plan to, there is a likeness of Mr. Hayden. Do you plan to use that likeness?
Oh, definitely. So at this scale, it's the big picture that is important, the movement and the general shape of the design. On the large scale, at that size, at that time, we really go for details using all the photographs and material that we have. And this is not just for facial details, but for the rest, the entire monument, the clothes, shoes, the hands. The hands I see as a very important aspect of the monument, because it is really showing the union between Harriet and Louis, and them working side by side, working together.
Anybody else?
Thank you so much. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Basil.
Okay. Okay. Yep, now we're going to welcome Norman Lee and David Wilson to the stage. I'll just go ahead and read the bios as they're walking up here. As co-founder of Recite, Norman, along with Shane Alberton, explores notions of community, identity, and narrative in the context of public space. Drawing on a site's cultural landscape, Recite creates works that resonates with local and historical meaning, making unseen connections between themes and ideas. Their approach to commemoration is defined by a sensitivity to the transcendent and an open, inclusive vision of who we are as a nation. Recite is passionate about helping communities honor difficult histories and recover the voices of those who struggled for justice, freedom, and human dignity. They take a multidisciplinary approach to site-specific projects by collaborating with experts from various fields and using diverse materials, styles, and modalities. David Wilson, Durham, North Carolina-based public artist, David Wilson hails from neighboring West Virginia and obtained his BFA from Hampton University. While at Hampton, Wilson was mentored by prolific muralist and educator John Biggers in the creation of public art. A primary driver in David's works is creation for the greater good and interpretation by all with an overall goal of fostering introspection, communication, and provide a platform for education. David views his role as an artful citizen and through collaboration embraces his role as a facilitator to help shape how art connects with the community. He has partnered with Norman Lee and Shane Alberton of Recite in prior projects and uniquely expressed themes of common threads and the weaving together of ethnicities and cultural traditions. An accomplished fine artist as well, David's works rest in the private collections of Princeton University, Oprah, Dr. Cornel West, and actor-musician Common. All right, for that, David, thank you so much. You can have two mics if you'd like. And there you go. And here is the clicker. You can just push that to move forward.
Are they both working? Or
They should both be working when you, yeah.
Testing. Is this the clicker? Oh, sorry. All right. This always happens. You get worried with the clicker. Let's see, make sure. Oh, there we go. Thank you for welcoming us. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be selected as one of 4 finalist team, and thank you for having us, and we look forward to sharing our vision for the project. Our project is entitled Carrying the Light of Truth Forward. And our approach, I guess, kind of different from the other finalists. Often when we get selected or shortlisted, we're always kind of interested to see kind of the group and the sensibilities of the selection committee. And it was interesting to discover that our fellow finalists were these kind of amazing figurative sculptures that does bronze and stone, and we were kind of like the kind of the odd artists out in the sense that we do use interpretive or we do use representative or figurative elements, but generally our work is a little bit more abstract in nature. I guess more akin to like the Vietnam Veterans Memorial and using kind of a landscape architectural and materiality to tell these very epic stories. And our piece here encapsulates 25 stelae, and stelae are objects that have been used since ancient times up into current times, and these are meant to create an experience of kind of movement. They're staggered stelae with one side being a regional limestone that is historic and relevant to Lexington, but also we've incorporated the other side being a polished stainless steel that reflects its surroundings. And mounted on each of these 25 steles in this kind of staggered configuration are lanterns, and lanterns, as we're all familiar with, is a very potent, powerful symbol of the Underground Railroad. And these lanterns each are 4-sided, and 4 times 25 is 100. So these represent the 100 escaped slaves that the Haydens took and cared for in their Boston station on the Underground Railroad. As I mentioned, the lantern is something that is very powerful and evocative symbol related to the Underground Railroad. And one of the things that we were that kind of dawned on us as we were developing this design was the notion that the lanterns themselves had kind of a dual meaning for us, one that was literal and one that was more metaphorical or poetic. The kind of literal aspect of it is that it guided escaped slaves to the north in the evening. And this image of Harriet Tubman here carrying it. So this is a very familiar motif. But the symbol that is not that familiar that we were thinking of that helped contribute to this project was the notion of the lanterns carrying the message of truth, or the light of truth, forward to present and future generations. And that's something that we felt was connected to this idea. So it's both a symbol of geography related to the historical Underground Railroad, but also in our case, this public art project is about telling the story, telling the truth of American history, and not letting the lies, the kind of the tyranny of lies to essentially, enslave, kind of our notions of who we are, and to really have a kind of a clear vision of that history. And in these lanterns, there are 25 individual lanterns, and they're glass. They're made of art glass panels, and each panel will have images, photographs, historical documents, letters, handwritten letters, official documents, and these are integrated into these lanterns and illuminated within the evening. And here you see some of the inspiration that we looked at in thinking about how to mount them. So on these stelae, they're mounted at varying heights to suggest the various ages of self-liberated slaves. And here you see some of these historical images that are so rich and so potent and so powerful, both in terms of handwritten script and photographic imagery that are mounted here. Before I hand it over to David, I want to speak a little bit about the nature of the design of the lanterns. They are stylized in what is called cyanotype, and some of you may be familiar with this approach. It's a 19th century style of reproducing drawings and photographs. It's the same process that blueprints were traditionally used on, and they're known for this kind of deep kind of blue, and that for us evoked the nighttime that a lot of the Underground Railroad had taken, a lot of the stories had taken place. So even in daytime, you have this kind of blue hue that gives the nighttime its presence, and also of course the night they glow and they really kind of reinforce that notion of the evening as being this time when this history was taking place. I wanted to show this image because it's hard to show in renderings that reflective quality I was talking about in terms of the stainless steel. So what it does when you have these kind of vertical elements that reflect, it creates this kind of interesting surreal quality where for us, that area along 4th or North Limestone Street is adjacent to the house where the Haydens self-liberated from. So that would be reflected into this, as well as people, as they're moving through, they see these kinds of interesting, almost like past and present coming together, being interwoven in a really kind of interesting way. So all these infinite reflections, both the stelae, the lamps, the lanterns, and people. So even a lone person making a pilgrimage to this sculpture will see themselves reflected as though they're a part of a larger group, and that's something that we want to create, this kind of interesting melding of past and present. And the way the lanterns that Yvonne beautifully put was this idea that they bring the truth to light. So we envision each of these lanterns almost like kind of how Frederick Douglass envisioned his newspaper, the North Star, which was a beacon of truth, and the North Star, of course, being the guiding star that enabled escaped slaves to find their way to freedom. So I'm going to turn it over to David now, and he's going to elaborate on this very important portion of this design. Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Thank you so much, Norman. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening and taking our presentation. So as Norman was speaking about the lanterns, that will be where I come in as a team component, not just with the overall envisioning of the design, but more specifically working to create the stories that Norman was telling about in the prior slides, taking these historical documents that are so rich in history and weaving them together to create a new narrative. A lot of my work is based in collage. I was early influenced by Romir Bearden as a collage and mixed media artist, so it's going to be my opportunity to take that lasting legacy of the Harlem Renaissance artist, and more specifically Romir Bearden, and transpose what are these, historical documents that may not have any context without you looking at maybe a story that's either online or in a book attached to them, and giving them a new type of meaning through these 4 panels that'll be in the lanterns. And it'll give you as the viewer and as the audience an opportunity to really stop and contemplate the story, right? There'll be 25 of them, and there will be 100 stories that you can take in. And at whatever point in time, maybe you might not have that much time to really take in the entire 25 or 100 stories through the lanterns. But when you come back, it might be in a different setting. It might be in a different season. It might be to where the conditions of lighting are different. So you'll have during the day, the light interacting with the art glass in unique ways that will not only reflect off of the stelae that they're attached to, but cast color onto you as the audience and as the viewer as you move throughout them. And in that way too, that's a huge part of our process, is to create an experience where you just don't come and look at a piece of art and then just stand and say, what does it mean to me? You actually get a chance to become part of the art in your own way and take it in at your own pace, and then again, take away from it what you will take away from it, at least in that moment. And then hopefully spread the word. Like Maury and Nathan were saying, how can you get this message out? You can spread the word and say you need to go check out the Freedom Trails installation, and let it inspire you and let it move you as well.
Oh, and one other thing, we go back to that slide real quick. This idea of moving through these kind of field of stelae, this kind of staggered field, it's something that we all do in our artwork, is kind of have an experience where you're looking at it far away that invites you towards it, and then when you get closer, you discover that each of these lanterns are indeed different. They tell a different, unique story or a different perspective of the story. And you see the reflections. So the idea is that as you're moving around it, it reveals to you. So it's almost layers of meaning that keeps on, as opposed to just something that you see far away, you get close, it just becomes this bigger thing. It actually has this, the message is kind of like like onion skins, where you peel away and you get more and more information.
And there's another key component to the process of the elements that we're going to be using with the lanterns, and then the hands that'll be affixed to the stelae that will be holding them, is this, as Norman had mentioned, having this aspect of the color, how it's going to connect heaven and earth. That was a key component to the Underground Railroad, was using the natural terrain in ways to guide you along your path, whether it was through caves, whether it was through existing or even created tunnels where you could stop along the way and then wait for the next opportunity to move forward. We're looking to take that story along with the important aspects of how the natural earth and the heavens connected to help move folks along the line. And then there's another important component with these hands. We're looking at finding opportunities where we as the artist team just don't come in and create something and then fade away. We want to come in a way that is capacity building in the sense of being immersed in the community. Hopefully coming in and doing even like a residency with one of the local arts magnet schools where we could work with the community, work with artists, work with parents and educators, folks of all backgrounds and walks of life and professions to come in and actually participate in the casting of the hands that will inform the work. So when the work is installed, you can come back and say, that hand was modeled after a hand that I used in the actual workshop process that created the final piece.
Literally like people, the community members carrying that truth forward for generations. So you can imagine yourself maybe as a teenager doing this and then coming back 30 years later and then showing your son or grandson or daughter or grandchildren, that was my hand, and that message becomes complete because you're literally telling your family members, a future generation, this story at the actual public art site. So the site of the public art becomes this kind of nexus of conveying that information. And also you see here, I don't know how clear that is from where you are, but you can see how those, as I mentioned, the different heights that these lanterns are mounted. But we were also kind of interested, as David mentioned, the song "Follow the Drinking Gourd," which was a folk song that was known to be sung or used by conductors of the Underground Railroad to provide information and to kind of ease the stress as you're moving. So "Follow the Drinking Gourd," of course, is referring to the Big Dipper. And if you follow the drinking gourd of the Big Dipper, you find the North Star. So even the placement of these lanterns are like the notes on musical staff. And as I mentioned earlier, that the staggered stelae create this kind of rhythm as you would traveling along the network. So the lanterns create this kind of arabesque movement, like notes, a cadence, and also the stelae themselves as well. And this is just a close-up of kind of being as you're moving through this, I guess, this kind of forest of stelae and looking at the different interpretive elements within the piece.
Again, this is just some slides that discuss our individual work and process. Again, my primary medium is glass. So glass is really personal to me as a medium. When I was about 8 years old, I had an accident where a piece of glass I went through a glass pane door and a piece of glass got lodged in my throat, and my parents were not away. It was just my older sister who was supposed to be taking care of me at the time. As I'm laying out on the sidewalk with blood coming out of my neck, and my aunt just happened to come by and hail down a police officer and whisked me to the emergency room. But even after they took out that piece of glass, 2 years later, there's still a piece of glass that was left in there that kind of worked its way to the surface, and I still have a scar to this day of where that second piece of glass was removed. So in some type of way, I guess the Lord was trying to tell me that was going to be my artistic medium moving forward by having that glass embedded in my throat. But
origin story.
Yeah, my origin story, exactly. So, but I love it as a medium. It's a great canvas. Again, I think you get these different experiences during the day where natural sunlight can hit and just like really cast all these beautiful colors. This is of a bus shelter down in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is of a freestanding sculptural element that has glass embedded inside of it down in Kinston, North Carolina. And this is for a cultural center down in Raleigh, North Carolina, the Chavis Community Center, a 300 square foot glass mural inside the cultural center.
We also have another team member that's not here today, but her name is Kelly Anderson Staley. It's spelled K-L-I-Y, but it is pronounced Kelly. That wasn't a typo. But she was awarded the 2022 Guggenheim Fellowship and has been exhibited internationally and across the country. And what she does is she takes a cyanotype approach and historical documents, and basically her approach is very aligned to this project. That's why we decided to kind of bring her on, because of her expertise. But her kind of her mission is to take collapse intergenerational time, or collapse generation. So she will take historical documents, she will take historical photography, but also take pictures of present day community members under that kind of cyanotype historical style, and kind of create these collage works, and creates a really interesting language. So so this aesthetic is very much part of what David was talking about, this collage work. And here we see the blueprints themselves. And one of the interesting kind of thematic components was how blueprints show you how to make something, or where to go, which is what the Underground Railroad was as well. Here's a elevation that really kind of shows that the musicality of these lanterns, and how they, kind of that you see it from the street. So you see that kind of alternating regional limestone with the kind of the polished metal. This is of course flattened, but of course as you move through it, you can weave into this particular field of stelae, and you can kind of see it here articulated as a plan view there. And this kind of shows, this is North Limestone, this is 4th Street, and the home that Yvonne mentioned is on this side of the street. So as I mentioned, you would see these reflections. I think there's also a large tree there that may be historic to the time. I'm not sure how old that tree is, but you're basically getting this kind of reflection of historical, where reflections of visitors. So all that becomes part of this experience of the work. Here's a close-up, 8 feet tall, 10 inches wide. The lantern is actually in that meeting room there that we had the maquette for. That was a life-size lantern, and then here is the assembly process. And as I mentioned, each one of these will have different text, different images, and they're all telling the story. And as Yvonne mentioned, something else that occurred to us was that a regional project that is specific to the East End, this is a sculptural component that can be used in other parts of the city as almost like recognizable. So even though the project is located here, you could have components as new stories emerge, bringing the truth to light. So these become the sculptural manifestation of those bringing truth to light. Not only here, but as we know, the Boston house where the Haydens really cared for and housed escaped slaves, they could expand to other cities, Detroit, other aspects of the country where the Underground Railroad met. So this could be the epicenter of this, and then you could see this kind of motif being expanded, almost like the Underground Railroad itself, where you have a network that starts one area and through a grassroots emergent kind of phenomenon, but then connects across the country. And then, as David mentioned, that the cast hands hold, providing another level of connecting present generation with the past. And we imagine, hands cast of students and of all ages, a cross section basically reflecting the varying ages of escaped slaves. So that we felt that was a very kind of aligned with the narrative of the piece. Installation, each of these components would be assembled off-site as components, and then they would all be shipped to the site, and then installed on-site onto the foundation, which I believe is decomposed granite at this point. If you go back one more. In terms of materials and maintenance, everything we've selected here, stainless steel, bronze, glass, particularly the art glass that we have is all color fast. It only requires mild cleaning, mild soap and dusting, really meant to stand up to elements. So durability is something that they're very, very serious about. So very minimal maintenance required for this.
And I know we're running short on time, and just to close out before we're ready to segue, to build on what Norman was saying, we put that thought of the material and the maintenance aspect into each of our projects to ensure that the work is timeless. So again, when another generation comes by to look at it, it's not weathered, it's not looking worn and torn and dated. It looks exactly or as close to exactly the same way as when it was installed maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Right. And the rest, I think, is just schedule and maintenance. But you want to go to the last image and then we'll take questions. Oh, okay. Sorry. Any questions? Sorry about that. Any questions? I guess could be emails or we could.
Yeah, and if you can just put your comments and questions on the back of your card, we'll make sure that those get to Norman and David.
Yeah.
And we'll
we
get the answers
apologize.
out.
We're just got so excited. We're so passionate about this project. We just love talking about it. So we apologize for taking too much time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Terrific
very much.
project. Thank you, guys.
And we're here. We're available to answer your questions afterwards, too, so.
All righty. Took a little longer than we thought.
They said they will be, they'll be around. If you did have some questions for
To the right.
afterwards, you can talk with the artist too. Okay, so with that, we're going to invite Stephen White to join us, and I'll start reading his bio as he's approaching. One of today's leading figurative sculptors, Stephen White prides himself on creating more than a physical likeness, imparting his work with both authenticity and spirit. A former vice president of the Royal Society of Portrait Sculptors, White's portraits are part of the permanent collections of the Smithsonian Institution's National Portrait Gallery and the Museum of African American History and Culture. Among his many honors, White was the 2016 Sports Artist of the Year and the 2021 recipient of the National Sculpture Society Stanley Bleefield Memorial Award. He was named the NSS Fellow in 2024. He has created numerous major monuments, including the 40-foot Aggie War Hymn Monument for Texas A&M University, the National Military Tribute for Bob Hope in San Diego, Jumbo the Elephant for Tufts University, and Joseph Vaughn for Furman University. His Women's Column of Strength in San Francisco named one of the top monuments of the year in 2017 by Smithsonian Magazine. He was named one of the top 25 public artists of the 2023 by Coda Works. Committed to pursuing projects that accurately represent the multiplicity of American stories, White's 67 public bronze figures, 30 depict non-Caucasian subjects, and 25 depict female subjects. And with that, Stephen White.
One. Does it work?
Yeah.
Can I sing? Thank you. Especially like to thank everybody that's been involved with the project so far for allowing us to come and present to you and allowing me to have my first trip to Kentucky, which has been very pleasurable so far. Hope to be back. That's up to you. I'm here today really to do two things. One, to try and persuade you that I'm the best person for the job, based on my past works and my experience. And secondly, to show you what my initial concept for the project is, having done the limited research we could do at this stage, and hopefully coming up with a concept that speaks to the locals, speaks to the venue, and really starts people's curiosity into the future life of the Haydens that they started here in Lexington. So a little bit about me. I am an experienced portrait sculptor. That's generally what I do, is figurative work, bronze work, figures. Can't see what it says up there. I have 2 pieces in the Smithsonian. I have a third one going in this year. I have one going into the Getty this year. And it's really, I started my career as a portrait sculptor and really continue to do that now with big monuments all over the world. It's something that I feel that you can get an instant reaction from somebody with, and I think that's really what public art is about, is creating a reaction and a comment from the viewer. Some of my previous pieces, we've just got a few of them here. There's one recently unveiled in Atlanta. That's not me. That's, I worked with Jimmy Carter and Roz on this piece, and they have copies for themselves, and President Carter commissioned me to do a portrait of his wife as well. That one is a nearly 3.5 times bust at the Carter Center. A 9-figure composition of John Steinbeck and characters from the Cannery Row novel. This one's in Monterey, California. I've got 2 Martin Luther King pieces so far, one in Hollywood, Florida, and one in Fontana, California. He's a tough one to do, a very, very difficult portrait, but I was involved in the National Mall piece very early on, and then they kicked me out and used somebody else. But I'm not bitter about it. This is the largest one we've done so far. This is a 40-foot piece at Texas A&M outside their stadium. It's 12 9-foot figures, and that was done in a year. And this is a recent one in South Carolina of the first African-American student to go to Furman University. So we're really focusing nowadays on, as much as we can, on social justice pieces and historical new monuments that replace some of the ones that need to be taken down. This was a large, twice life-size 12-foot piece for A&M of a their first Heisman Trophy winner. So with this project, we really wanted to sort of do the research, and you heard the great stories from our wonderful historian earlier, trying to get a piece that speaks to the town, speaks to their journey, is a tough call. So I wanted to really look at the fundamentals and what we're trying to get across, and as well as representing these people as best we can. So my first impressions were that we really wanted to get something that was iconographic, that you could see in its silhouette that this is, the piece that is in your town. And I wanted to focus really primarily on his goals as the leader of the family, that his family was first. If he wasn't going to be able to take his wife and newly adopted child with him, he wasn't going to go. So family comes before freedom, and he puts his family in front of him. And this is really what we were initially thinking, that this is where the concept starts. And we wanted it to be a start of the sort of the steep slope of their travel and their journey. And he's putting his wife and child in front of him as they embark in their first day of freedom. This is really as a representation of their first steps into freedom as they leave. They start to get into the stagecoach to start their journey north. The piece is on a concrete base, which we'll talk about later, and then it has room at the front for informational plaques and further information for people to research further. The second main part of the statue is the pathway that we're walking on is going to be a typographical map with all the stops, all the towns, all the villages on the way, and all the checkpoints, as well as the route they took. So it becomes an informational and educational base, but also reads as part of their journey. So this will be also sculpted in bronze and be, indestructible, but also have every detail. And again, this is a very early stage, so we will be consulting with people that know a lot more about the project than we do at this stage to get everything exactly right down from the outfits to the style of the trunks that they were known to have taken with them, with their whole worldly belongings in, and every part of the route and what was important on the route, and get that across in the piece. It's going to be a monumental scale. It's going to be approximately 9 foot plus tall. The figures are going to be generally life-size, but taller than they would have been. Actually, we don't know their real heights, but you can tell from the proportions in the pictures that he was probably about 5'6", and she was looking more like about 5'4". So we'll probably do them in the 5'10" to 6'2" scale. And young Joseph was believed to be, I believe, between 6 and 8. Thank you for nodding there, our historian. So he's going to be in there too. And I've also got them looking in slightly different directions. So she's looking nervously forward with her head held high and strong. The child is looking down, wondering what's going on, and also he will be making eye contact with the smaller visitors to the monument, and he's sort of nervously looking around and making sure that their pathway is safe for their family. The base is initially planned to be in concrete, but it could be in limestone. We have room in the budget. We came in 50,000 under the potential budget, so we have room to move things around, add things, and potentially do a limestone base. This gives you some idea of the scale. And with regards to the site, I really want it to be facing north, and these initial concept site-specific renderings, we would actually probably do it. I went there this morning, and due north is a 45-degree angle straight from that corner. So I would, suggest that we tip it and have it facing exactly north. So you can see where is the start of their journey. And this is just a quick rendering just to show you a general scale. And we will do a more detailed one. Should we step further into the project? You always struggle when you're given these sort of loose guidelines. We want it to be these two people wanted to express this and this, and then there's a site and a budget. That's it. So I always think of these things when we come to you, we want to say, this is a talking point. This is a start. If you like it, we can go with it. We can do more research and get it exactly right. We can also listen to what the community says and develop it further. We've done this many, many times, and you'd be in good hands. That's the bit I'm nervous about. Oh, we have a little video of the maquette that I couldn't bring because it was too big for the suitcase. But I believe we can make it turn around with magic. Magic. No? Didn't we talk about it? All right. It spins. Oh, here we go. Big round of applause. There we go. Thank you. So we really want it to be able to be interesting from all angles, and because they're obviously facing the one direction, that when you're at the back, you can see the map and the route, and go from there. That's some practicalities. I think we've got the next one. There we go. It's going to be in fine art grade bronze with a stainless steel interior, so it can be climbed on. We do these things in universities all the time, and we have to cope with drunken students climbing on things. So we're used to having pieces that have to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous drunkenness. So we're in no real worries about the piece in terms of and damage. People have tried to do everything to these pieces before, and there's ways around it. Graffiti is a problem, but it's a problem for every city council, so they know how to deal with that too. It's going to be safe, and I've always found that if you make it not a struggle to sort of climb it, nobody's going to climb it. We do a lot of pieces that are ground level, and people can interact with them, and we find that is a better concept because it gets shared more and the whole story gets shared more, and that's what we want. We want the people that come and see it, but we also want exponentially the people that will see you posting your picture standing with it. So if it's a more approachable level, then we can do that too. That's the bit I don't like. The bit I do like is the questions and answers. So
all right, Stephen, thank you. Any questions from the audience tonight? Mr. Albacete.
If in fact, as Yvonne Giles said, they went to Maysville, it's facing the right way, being parallel to limestone, not the corner, because they didn't go due north.
I didn't quite hear that, sorry.
They did not go due north. If they went to Maysville, they went pretty much straight out limestone, so your vision was correct.
I love to hear that, thank you. But again, these things are absolutely open to a jury of the people that have better facts than me or have a stronger opinion. But excellent too. But we'll have to tilt the due north on that's on the map.
Okay. I got that black preacher voice, and I don't need a mic voice. I raised this point in a conversation with you briefly out in the big room, but I found the individuals in your piece to be very elegantly dressed, to be escaping on the Underground Railroad. They looked more like they were dressed to go to church, rather than escaping on a route of such unknown, not knowing whether they're going to sleep, whether they're going to be chased by dogs in the middle of the night. And I don't know that I would have dressed in a suit and a hat such as the figures are in your drawing. Can you explain why you think they would have been dressed like that on their outset on the Underground Railroad?
I can, and I'm, as far as I'm aware, and please correct me all the time, that these slaves were very well respected, skilled, working people, and they were dressed around town, and I believe Lewis worked in a clock store at the time and was, a well-dressed man. These people weren't in rags, they weren't, working in the fields. And they also, I understand, and again, we're very early in our research here. This is just the maquette. We haven't won the project. That they were trying to escape and to fit in, getting into a stagecoach and trying to fit in with the way, they weren't walking through the woods. They were literally, about to look like affluent people, and if their whole worldly belongings were in those two trunks, and if I'm packing my best coat, I'm going to be wearing it. I'm not going to get it all creased up in a trunk. And I think from what we've seen, that later in life they were certainly very well dressed. So it's further research to do, and I will. Yes, hopefully she's going to back me up.
Oh, thank you. They were dressed appropriately. Their story is they were traveling with two abolitionists, and the abolitionists disguised them as white Yankees. So therefore, they would have been dressed in different outfits than the ones they would normally have worn as enslaved people, because they had to go through 13 toll gates from here to Maysville, 13 chances of being identified and stopped. So they had planned this very well. They knew what their modus operandi was going to be. So they were dressed appropriately.
But it was a good point.
Yeah.
I'm doing the state of Florida's official slavery memorial for the state capitol building, and they're dressed very differently. Anybody else, please?
Anybody else?
The locations on the map that you have out there, are those locations going to be in the monument itself, and so that you can read the names of the stations?
Yes, that's the plan. We will have, they will be milled, written in bronze, and we will discuss this with the committee, but definitely the titles of the towns they went through, potentially little notes as to what they did there, where they did there, why it was relevant. It will be very much, it's about 6 feet by 2 by 3. So it's going to be quite a big plaque that we can fit quite a bit of information on, but it will mostly look like a typographical map of their route. But it will have information with regards to the venues, the checkpoints, and potentially some other notes.
The inscription, Family Freedom Forward?
That was our initial title. It's just what we're starting with. I thought it really spoke to 3 major points of their life. He's obviously putting his family first, and like I said earlier, and I think I backed up here, he wouldn't have left if he couldn't have taken them. This was his first steps into freedom. And forward is the forward motion of them going forward. It's the start of the movement. It's the start of their new life. And we wanted them to be, but it's, again, I also liked faith for the final word there, because of their faith in, that first day of escaping, and their faith of their hope to get to where they wanted to do, and then paying back all that goodwill to the 100 people they helped escape.
Lastly, is it inscribed on all sides?
That wasn't the plan, but it could be. These things can either be done in bronze letters, or we can engrave them in, or impress them into the concrete. But definitely we can do things like that.
Why concrete over granite? Is it like a budgetary concern, or?
Concrete, I was saying to somebody earlier, I do like when we put monuments in places, I like them to look like you can't tell how long they've been there. And when we first saw the site, there's the whole pathways are all concrete. If they'd been brick, we might have said, let's do it in brick. If there'd been like a lot of limestone benches or whatever else it might have been, we might have said that. And again, it's open to change, because we've got room in the budget to move it. We find that things that are easy to clean and not chip, such as granite can chip, and then it's a real pain to try to renovate it again. Limestone might have a problem with graffiti that's done with carved into it rather than spray paint, which is easier to take off. So it's a thing that we would discuss with the city to see, and the committee to see what they think is appropriate for the piece, but also is something that they could maintain in the future.
Yes, sir. Dr. Bibbs.
Mine's twofold, and I'm a sculptor myself.
I'm sorry.
I'm interested, what's your concerns about people climbing it? That's always a general question for us. Climbing it and involving themselves to be hurt, that's a factor. And I'm also concerned about your bronze process. Are you one to go from the clay to being involved with the wax modeling, the wax chasing and all those things? Do you do all that, or do you just send that to the company?
Okay, I'll answer both of those. Like I say, I have 67 life-size and larger pieces. I would say half of those are accessible. People can stand with them. They can, they can touch them. They can, climb all over them. So we're used to that. We're used to making sure that these pieces aren't going to get sawn off. Like, for instance, on Harriet's dress, it actually touches the trunk. So there's multiple points of contact. So you can't just lock, somebody can come along with a skill saw and take off the wrists and run off with the box. All those things are considered because of their experience. So, and in terms of climbing on it, yes, they're going to be able to climb on it, but it's not a challenge. If it was 23 feet off the ground, that would be a bigger problem, because it's a challenge for them to do it, and they'll be daring each other to do it. And With this one, they've only got 3 or 4 feet to fall off, and hopefully they'll just be embarrassed and get up and run away. In terms of the process, I don't do any computer enlargements. My professor would roll over in his grave. I will go straight to life size, and the life size figures are adjustable. So we work with the committee if there's, you see something that when you've gone to that scale that is off, or it's forming in a strange silhouette, or something that is a problem, we can alter and change. All the molds for the pieces are done in my studio with my staff, and then we use Artworks Foundry, which is the biggest foundry on the West Coast, and it's about 2 hours from us, and we'll go up there weekly and we quality control all the stages. So we do our molds because that's the stage where it can really mess up your texture and your detail, so we make sure that's done in-house, and then we'll go up and quality control the waxes, and then the bronzes and the welding, and then final quality control before the patina, and then we even monitor the wrapping and the shipping.
Excellent. Stephen, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
If anybody else has additional comments, please put them on the back of your card. We'll make sure that Stephen gets those. And while we're gearing up for what we hope is a Zoom presentation with our fourth finalist, I did want to recognize Joel Strangus. Joel is sitting here by Larry, and if anybody started this project, it was probably Joel back in the day. He wrote the book Lewis Hayden and the War Against Slavery. And so Larry got a chance to read that, and he has shared that widely with all the artists and many community members. So we're glad to have you here, Joel.
Hi, Ashley. Have you joined the Zoom? You're in the waiting room? Okay.
And to line this up a bit, our fourth finalist had an unfortunate medical emergency, so she is actually going to Zoom in tonight.
We are going.
Aichu Hopin is her name, and she's part of Humanity Memorial.
You see me? Could I check, please?
Yes. We will. Okay, so I'm going to read your bio, and
Okay.
and then you can start. So I'll just go ahead and do that. And then when it's time for questions, if they have a question, I'll relay that to you over the phone. So I'm just going to put my phone down and start your bio.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Aichu Hopin and Humanity Memorial Team. Aichu grew up in a straw house with a dirt floor in China. When she was 10 years old, her father was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She learned to pray when the elderly came to her humble home to pray for her father and bring them food. She saw firsthand the dedication and care from a community that instilled hope for their family of 7. The transformative love from a community nurturing her since. As a mother and sculptor over the past 20 years, Aichu has been creating public art with creative communities in the U.S. from this universal love and shared aspiration for a better future. Humanity Memorial Team's artwork is created from an innate love and shared compassion to serve humanity and to heal. Their multidisciplinary team with diverse cultural backgrounds and deep sense of love for community serves to promote humanity through art. The team's top priority is reputable design with the structural design team led by Dennis Poon. Poon will lead the team from concept to installation to assure structural security and public safety. Okay, with that, Aichu, you can begin your presentation.
Thank you, Nathan. You're excellent. Share the screen. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Slideshow. I try to propose, can you hear me, right? I try to propose the Hayden's family supported by the 2 heroes. They are supporting them to escape to freedom. And we have the Birds of Freedom birds of freedom surrounding them is as if a wall of oppression has been breaking through because their courageous escape. And I think it's important not only tell the story of them escaping. I view this arch to try to express the impact of his courageous escape. This is Lexington's story, and I think it's overdue. It's time we just tell this national, international impact of Louis' legacy. And I think it's important not just talk about his escape, and now only is a physical escape, is about his spiritual impact on our society today and in the future as well. So we want to create a symbolic element of his impact and the dynamic move forward motion of the family's courageous running for freedom. I think the supporting two figures is continue the circle of humanity. I believe both of the heroes helped them escape. Part of the network that we also recognize that freedom is only can achieved by the unity of all races coming together. So the family group, the children is afraid with the help of the mom and dad leading the way. And we can also try to different movement of maybe the woman leading the way, and she holding money purse. I think that's because as a woman, she equally, if it's not more, longing for freedom. And this figure and her support is very important. Her hands extend out to allow her to run towards freedom. So her hands gesture, in a way, is a balance in the whole composition to show us that with the support of both Black, white, or all races, we are able to create a new horizon. I forgot his name. I think it's Tab. She meet Louis in the restaurant, right? I think his support is crucial to help Louis escape. And I think it's important we have him extending his hands out to show the direction, and he's an important part of the success. Although later on he was caught, but this later, the beginning of foundation of the groundwork of how his gesture towards the future pay his personal price. But Louis come back live with him. So his hands holding this paper has this symbolic meaning of communication from Louis. Louis wrote the letter and tried very hard to help him in return. And this is the story of Lexington, and we want to tell this intimate story, not just Louis run for freedom. It is because the brotherhood, the friendship between different races that form this strong bond. And I would like to create that beautiful story. The arch, I try to convert multiple colors representing different races, because the beauty of diversity is more important and more powerful than the difference we have. This is how I will try to create this arch of embrace. The healing embrace. We return to the story, but also is the loving embrace. The loving embrace of recognize what was done, how wrong it was for the slave, but also show the birth of hope that we can indeed come together, creating a circle of love again for shared humanity, that we are all in a single garment destiny, as Martin Luther King said. So this is the figure at the end of the walking path. I would like to have a rising panels of freedom with Louis on the front. That was when he was able to help more slaves escape in Boston. So I want the stories extend to not only escape for freedom for himself and the family, also his impact for humanity, and he's continue leading us forward. This is the likeness. Of course, it's just a sketch. If I'm honored to create with you, the likeness I show you will be not only likeness in physical, also will be likeness in spirit. I try to convert his courageous and his a vision for the future. And he look ahead and he's determined and full of hope as well. And they are also projecting the great future of Lexington, because the story, because the awareness of the citizen now, and because of vision of the committee, of the Lexington people now, and will bring us a brighter future collectively. So this monument is not just about remembering the history, it's about let all the people to see what happened in Lexington is inspiring. What we can learn from Lexington and what we can be a part of this force of freedom to bring better future for all of us. Thank you so much. This is pretty rough sketches, but if you love the concept, I will creating with your community, incorporate your input, and I believe we can create something beautiful, moving, because this is indeed a beautiful, inspiring story, and will inspire all people come together, standing below the arches, and to not only learn the inspiring story, also become the part of light of freedom, becoming the part of the birth of freedom, and to create a better future. Thank you so much.
So if there,
Thank you, Nathan.
Anybody any questions to him?
we'll have, if you have questions, let me know. It's going to be a little challenging because I'm going to have to hear the question and then Nathan's going to say that to Aichu.
Is it life size or is it larger than life?
Great question.
Life size. Because if you make it bigger than life size, it will not have the intimacy. I like to create something is a story that we can relate to in the same life scale. So when you look at them, you can see their face, their hope, their fear, and the child's fear, the 5 years old Joseph.
And stand among them.
Yeah, we stand among them to feel their
Presence.
their presence, to relate to them. They are one of us. To relate to us, that they are one of us. And so I think larger than life size, although in a way is powerful in a way, but it's distant. Especially we want to listen to the story in a soft human reflection. Or you have a choice to create something really big, but nobody can see the eyes, nobody can feel the connection as a human being. So I think a more appropriate approaching is to create human size, to have this expression, people can see their face in eye level. Thank you.
You might have covered this, but what is the material of the arch over the figures?
What is the material of the arch? Figures.
I think stainless steel. Stainless steel is everlasting, and in the middle is bronze.
Anybody?
In the middle is bronze.
Yeah, the figures are silicon.
Yes, silicon bronze.
Will there be text?
Yeah, there will be text around the column. We will have, bas relief surface text around the column. We can add more details, and also on the ground.
That can be cast in bronze.
Yeah, that can be cast in bronze as well. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I think that was all the questions we have.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Nathan. You're excellent. And thank you, committee, for incredible leadership and input. Look forward to hear your feedback. If you have any question, please call me anytime, okay?
Thank you for the flexibility with the illness of our son.
Yeah, thank you for the flexibility because of the illness of my son, and we cannot go back, and we are in Florida, try to help him recover. When we get opportunity, we'll show you more details. Okay, thank you.
Well, I think. Well, that's a good way to end the evening, I'll say. But what I will say is I think you did see 4 really outstanding proposals for this very important project. Please keep in mind, as most of those artists said, we want the public's input. We value it very, very much. This committee has worked tirelessly for 18 months to put together a program that we think the community is really going to fall in love with and for many, many years. So please leave your comments at the back. We will follow up. If you are interested, shameless plug, the LexArts Hop is Friday night. We'll be replaying these proposals at the Hop along with the maquettes that the artist brought. So join us on Friday night. Again, we're so grateful that you came tonight. It's important that we have the public's support on this project. So thanks so much. LexFreedomTrain.org, and my boss, Amy Sweetall, wants to say hello. Oh, and don't forget, please take 10 minutes to complete the survey on the arts and culture and master design strategy. Yes, ma'am, that's the one, the purple kind of bottom. It's really critical. We're open for 2 more days, and there will be a lot more information to come on that. It's a terrific opportunity to move the arts forward in Lexington, but your voice is critical. So I appreciate you doing that. You guys have a great night. Thank you so much.